Hello and welcome to the Calisthenics YouTube channel. Welcome to a new episode of Coach versus Chat GPT. This is the second episode where we ask Chat GPT certain questions. Today it will be about Planche and see if it gives us good programming advice. And make sure to stick around for the end of the video, since we will talk about Planche push-up and when to integrate them in your training specifically. Hello, Mr. GPT. I want to learn the planche. Could you give me a plan for that?
Absolutely. The planche is an advanced bodyweight exercise that requires strength, balance, and technique. Here's a structured plan to help you progress toward achieving a planche. This plan assumes you already have a basic level of fitness.
Starting off well, Mr. GPT. A good point that GPT makes here is to mention that it requires strength, balance, and technique. Balance is actually one of the most overlooked elements in the planche. Have you ever wondered why sometimes the planche feels so easy and sometimes so hard? It very often has to do with how much you lean into the movement to begin with. Common mistake athletes make when entering the planche is to not lean enough, especially when switching from one propedeutic to another. For example, tuck to advanced tuck or advanced tuck to straddle planche. Learning the right lean and hitting the center of mass makes an enormous difference in how hard this skill will feel.
8-week plan for the planche.
Well, let me tell you, if you're not gifted by the planche gods themselves, you will not achieve anything in 8 weeks. But okay, let's give it a chance. Later, we will ask Mr. GPT to give us a 3-year plan, since that is way more realistic.
Weeks 1 to 2, foundation building. Focus on building general strength and shoulder stability.
Shoulder stability. Boy is throwing around some Instagram influencer buzzwords.
Exercises, push-ups, 3 sets of 8 to 12 reps.
Love the rep ranges.
Pike push-ups, 3 sets of 6 to 10 reps.
Love the front delt specific work here.
Plank holds, 3 sets of 30 to 60 seconds.
Do you mean elbow or straight plank?
Hollow body hold, 3 sets of 20 to 30 seconds.
GPT's love for core strength is back here.
Dips on parallel bars or sturdy surface.
We'll see about the dips later. I love the rep ranges. Nowadays, we still see coaches prescribing 3 times 15 reps. The reason I personally don't like that, besides for total beginners that have no idea of reps in reserve, is that it ultimately leads to leaving gains on the table or pushing yourself way too hard. Having a certain rep range and reps in reserve, let's say 2 reps in reserve in a 12 to 15 rep range given, has the advantage of getting you close to failure at every single set, making them effective reps, but without ever hitting a rare 0, which would accumulate more fatigue for an almost negligible amount of additional gains, especially in your first training week of a mesocycle. A set performed with 2 reps in reserve in that rep range with 2 minutes breaks between the sets could look something like this: 15 reps in the first, 13 reps in the second, 12 reps in the last set, all with 2 reps in reserve. One thing I am missing here, especially if this is the first time you're working on this skill, is scapula-specific work. Technique here is the key word. Even if it's just the plank, exercises that include elevation, depression, adduction, and abduction teach you what to do with your scapulas. If you're interested in tracking your training, we are developing our own app, TrainLog. With TrainLog, you're able to track all your training, no matter what sport you do. Sign up for the beta right here, right now. Hollow body hold. Actually, okay, understanding how to do a solid crunch and stereopelvic tilt is very important for the planche. Maybe the elbow plank with that focus is even more specific. But there is always time for variation and nothing wrong with hollow body holds. Dips. I do have a bias against dips, so take this with a grain of salt. I don't think that they are a great exercise for most people, all things considered, especially as a beginner. They are complex, risky for some, and extremely tiring for the whole shoulder girdle. Over the years, we found that loading dips and working on the planche, besides if kept at low RPEs or being gifted in one of the two or both movements, didn't work as well as just focusing on other exercises for chest and focusing more on the planche. It works, of course, but I'd recommend against it in most cases, if planche is a priority.
Weeks 3 to 4, planche progressions. Start introducing planche-specific progressions.
Okay.
Exercises. Planche leans, 3 sets of 10 to 15 seconds.
Sweet. Works for everyone. You can just lean until you can still hold 4. An extremely good and useful exercise.
Tuck. Planche holds, 3 sets of 5 to 10 seconds.
Well, after 3 weeks of push-ups, not many will manage a tuck planche.
Elevated pike push-ups, 3 sets of 5 to 8 reps.
As mentioned before, great. Rep range here is lower now. Mr. GPT could advise you to use more weight here, for example.
L-sit. Holds, 3 sets of 10 to 20 seconds.
The L-sit can be a fun skill to work on, but if planche is the goal, it's better to spend more time working on specific exercises like the planche lean and do some other core work here that really helps you to learn crunch and posterior pelvic tilt.
Shoulder taps in plank, 3 sets of 10 to 12 taps per side.
A bit fancy as an exercise, same opinion as with the exercise before.
Weeks 5 to 6, increased difficulty. Continue to build strength with more challenging holds. Exercises, advanced tuck planche. Holds, 3 sets of 5 to 10 seconds.
Nope.
Straddle planche. Lean, 3 sets of 10 to 15 seconds. Planche push-ups, on knees if needed. 3 sets of 3 to 5 reps.
Okay, so normal push-ups with more lean.
Freestanding tuck planche, 3 sets of 5 to 10 seconds. Back widows, shoulder mobility, 3 sets of 10 to 15 reps.
3 sets of random mobility in week 5. Okay.
Weeks 7 to 8. Final progressions, work toward achieving the planche. Exercises, straddle planche. Holds, 3 sets of 5 to 10 seconds.
Yeah, maybe if I cut my legs off.
Full planche leans, 3 sets of 10 to 15 seconds. Full planche as achievable, 3 sets of 3-5 seconds.
Full planche for 3 to 5 seconds, absolutely easy, especially after we did straddle planches and leans.
Negative planche push-ups, 3 sets of 3 to 5 reps.
Planche push-ups without any propedeutic given.
Mobility and stretching, daily, focusing on shoulders, wrists, and hamstrings.
Well, we are in full influencer territory now. As most of you probably and hopefully know, achieving an advanced tuck planche in just 3 to 4 weeks is absolute bullshit. It can happen, but it's very rare. Straddle planche in 5 weeks, maybe if your name is Viktor Kamenov. For most, it usually takes about a year or more of consistent training to get a very solid advanced tuck planche. The jump to straddle can take another 1 to 3 years depending on individual genetics. Especially if you are on the heavier side, you will have to use some in-between progressions, like the one-leg straddle planche, weighted advanced tuck, or tuck planches, lots of banded work, and dynamic variations like the raise to hold to get there.
Additional tips. Always warm up properly to avoid injuries. Ensure you get adequate rest days, especially for your shoulders and wrists. Progress gradually. If a progression feels too difficult, stay with the previous level until you feel comfortable moving on. Maintain a balanced diet to support your training. Listen to your body. The planche requires time and dedication. Listen to your body and don't rush the process. Good luck and enjoy the journey.
All good points. As you said, it requires time and dedication. So let's ask you. I don't think that 8 weeks is a realistic time frame for planche. Do you?
You're right. The planche is quite advanced, and everyone's progress varies based on factors like strength, body composition, and training experience. While some might see significant improvement in 8 weeks, for many, it can take several months or even longer. It's essential to set realistic goals and be patient with yourself. The key is consistent training, proper progression, and listening to your body. If you find that you need more time on certain progressions, that's perfectly okay. Adjust the plan as needed and focus on incremental gains. You said, can you give me a 3-year plan to learn the planche with assistance exercises as well? Here's a comprehensive 3-year plan to help you achieve the planche, along with assistance exercises. This plan focuses on gradually building strength, technique, and stability, with phases to track your progress.
The time frames here are much more realistic. Most points made before are true for this plan as well. And if you introduce a new variation, you won't be able to hold it for sets of 5 to 10 seconds for sets, but you will have to start with a 2x2 or a 3x2 and rather work on adding sets than seconds. More on that in another video. One thing that we commonly see online and here as well is that the planche push-up is really trained as its own skill from the very beginning. You go through every single variation, including some very exotic ones, to get to your final goal of a tuck planche push-up. Then you do it all over again for the advanced tuck planche push-up. There is nothing wrong with that. But the problem with this system is that you will spend a lot of time on a very niche and complex progression in between, probably getting lost and stuck in some of them while having a hard time smartly allocating volume, considering that you will have to work on pure isometric hold time as well. Since if your hold just isn't solid enough, you will probably lose the tension in your shoulder blades at the top after the push-up. This quickly leads to either doing too much total volume or not enough volume on the hold itself. Since the isometric hold is very complex by itself and the push-up puts a further layer of complexity on top of it, we generally take another approach, which has worked very well for our clients. We don't bother with the push-up until we have an extremely solid advanced arc, or even better, have already started working on the strap planche. This has the advantage that at that point, we are sure that advanced tuck is completely solid, and we can either work on tuck planche push-ups, or in most cases, already with advanced tuck planche push-ups with a light loop band. A lot of bent arm work will already have covered that range of motion in one way or another, being weighted push-ups, military press, weighted pikes, handstand push-ups, 90-degree handstand push-ups, maybe even dips, and of course, only if these were goals as well, but for most people, they usually are, as well as bent arm planche work for hip proprioception, meaning that now we only need to focus on what the scapula does in the eccentric and concentric part of the movement, since we are already very accustomed to the isometric, as well as what the hips do. Another great advantage to this method is how it can be inserted programming-wise. When taking this route, we can still focus on improving the planche isometrics twice a week and can introduce this light technical work for a few sets on a third day in between without going overboard with volume. As stated earlier, there is nothing wrong with working intensively on the skill specifically from the beginning, and it might even work better for some, especially if you have great genetics and no problems whatsoever with learning certain activations. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like, subscribe, and maybe share it with your friends. See you next time.